Hello. In this video, we're going to keep developing this basic GUI to take an input for the radius and the height of a cylinder, and we'll calculate the volume. Now, if you think about it, I said in some of my earlier videos that I like to think about programming as input, process, output. This is essentially dealing with the input. We're set up now that we can actually take an input. If I run this program, and so we're just going to say, let's just go through our last couple of commands. There it is. There it is. It takes the input. I can say 2, 3, and what I want to do now is I want to be able to click this submit button and then have something happen. To do that, I'm going to bind a function to my button. That means that when I click the button, the function is going to run. Okay, so let's do that. We're going to come back up here. There it is. I'm just going to keep our template up there. This is from a different program I wrote earlier. All right, to do this, what we do is we come down here and we add another name parameter called command. And we tie the command to a function that we're going to write, and we'll call our function submit. Now, right now, we don't have a submit function, so we have to write this. Now, we really have to be aware of the location that we write this. We have to write the submit function above this line. And my recommendation is, while you're getting comfortable with this and you're figuring things out, is just always do it above your root here, just below your imports. So we're going to say def, which defines a function. Our function will be called submit, and then we're going to hit enter a couple times. So let's just make sure this works. Submit pressed. So all this is going to do now is when I hit the submit button, it's going to print out submit pressed. So let's save this. Let's pull up our console. Let's run this. And let's keep an eye down here. Submit. Notice every time I hit submit now, submit pressed kind of pops up. So that's great. Okay, now back to Sublime Text. All right, so we've taken our input. What we're going to do now is we have to pull each value out of those entries. Now, I'm going to assume that the user's input is correct. It gets a little bit more complicated if you account for things like strings when you're expecting numbers. We're going to assume that it's always a float. So I'm going to create a variable r here, and I'm going to run the function float, and I'm going to say entr, which is entry r. That's down here. This is the entry box we created, .get. So basically what this does is it gets whatever is contained in that entry box, and then we set it to a float. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make it height, and that's going to be a float, and that's going to be entr dot get, enth.get, pardon me. And now I'm going to run through the process. So v is equal to math.py times r times h. And there we go. So now v is equal to round. We're going to round the volume to 3 decimal places. And we're not going to do the large output. Let's just make sure this works right now. I'm going to do output.insert, remembering that output is the name of the text box, and we're going to insert just v. But to do this, we know tk.insert, and that essentially says this is a location to insert it, and that's what we're inserting. So let's give this a run. File, save. Here's my box. 2, 3, submit. Math not defined. Did you pick up this mistake I made along the way? So math is a built-in module, and it contains all these shortcuts. Now the problem is that by default math isn't loaded in the program. The same way we import tkinter, we have to import math. That's all the problem is there. So if I save this now, I come back to here, and let's just take a second and clean a couple things up. There we go. And we run it again. Here it is. 3, 2, submit pressed. So let's just pause and see if we can troubleshoot the issue here now. So I made the classic mistake here that I talked about when I talked about text boxes. So notice here how I disabled the text box. What that means is that no one can do anything with it. So up here, when I try and actually insert text to it, that gives me an error. So what I have to do is I have to say output.state, or sorry, output.config state equals normal. And by setting it to normal, we can now insert information, output.config state equals, and now what's the state going to be? We're going to disable it again. So let's save this. Let's run this. 2, 3, and there it is. And you'll notice there's some output issues that are going to happen here, but we're not too concerned about that. Okay, so I feel pretty happy where we are. Let's add this to Git. Let's commit this with a message. And then we're going to push it. And let's just take a second now. Let's just confirm that this is pushed properly. So if I come here and I refresh my GitHub site, there's that GUI one. So you now have access to it if you want it. Hope that video helped. Had a great day.